everyone, welcome back to the Art of Business English. This is episode 156, our 3-year anniversary, and there are 3 of us today, which I think is maybe a first on the podcast. I'm joined by Loic from from South Africa. Hi Loic, how are you, buddy?
Hey everyone, good in yourself, Andrew.
And I've also got Xavi here, who has just arrived back from
Charlie, good
the
to meet
States.
you.
Hi Xavi.
Hello, Andrew. Thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure. Welcome back to the mother country.
It's my pleasure to be here, and I'm really excited to be back to my own country.
It's your own country. Yeah, so Xavi's just arrived back from 16?
16.
16 years living in Sacramento, was it?
Well, I left in 2004, and I arrived in 2020. 16, almost 17 years.
Almost 17 years, wow. So you've had a good long stint out in the States.
Yeah.
So welcome everybody. It's episode 156. It's our 3-year anniversary, and it's been a long but fun journey. So today we really have zero script. We've planned nothing.
Good.
We thought we would just talk a little bit about basically what have been popular episodes over the past 3 years. Maybe talk a little bit with Xavi about his experience living abroad, give you guys a little bit of inspiration. And finally, maybe a few little predictions for the next 3 to 5 years of language learning online. I think that's going to be the big game changer. So let's start today with maybe a little bit, because I mean, many of my guests obviously know who I am, and my listeners know who I am and know who Loic is. But Xavi, what about you, buddy? Do you want to just quickly give us a little bit of background for for the listeners?
Sure. Well, once again, thank you for having me, and congratulations in this 3rd anniversary. I bet it's really exciting for you guys, and it's a pleasure for me to be part of this. I'm originally from here, from Manresa. Well,
Manresa is just outside of Barcelona.
Yeah, like 60 kilometers north, right? Yeah, something like that. And I moved to Sacramento, California, a long time ago in 2004. Let's say that I moved there by accident. You know, it's because I met my girlfriend here in Barcelona. I was studying music, actually. I was in the Taller de Music, that is a music school here in Barcelona. I met her there, blah, 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 long story. So I moved to California, and I work as an interpreter and translator for the last 16 years, especially medical interpretation, some legal interpretation, and I had the chance as well to work as a simultaneous interpreter for CBS, the famous TV channel.
Yeah, CBS.
So I was kind of an interpreter / Spanish broadcaster in California. So
okay.
I work on TV, I work on television. You could hear my voice because what I did was interpreting the news.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I was on the air like every hour because we had to promote the service. We had to promote that you could watch the news in Spanish.
Real Spanish.
Yes, you could hear the news in Spanish. You could watch the English show, the American show was a news show, but then you could hear my voice. Well, we were 2 interpreters, me and another guy that we used to interpret the news. And the job was kind of easy. We had to just read the teleprompter. You know how TV works, no? Those.
So you literally did simultaneous
interpretation.
That's not easy.
It's kind of easy, I feel.
You feel okay?
I feel that it's kind of easy, especially when you're doing news, because we did. It's true that we did international news, national news, but mainly we did local news. And in Sacramento, every day it's like the same thing. You know, there's a shooting there, there's a murder there, there is an accident or a crash there. So every day, in the beginning, was extremely intimidating. I'll be honest, because it was a job that I've never done before. I didn't have lots of training. I was working as a medical interpreter, but they gave me the chance. I did the different testing, the different tryouts, if you want to call it. Yeah. And finally I got the job. So it was really fun because I was working on television. I was part of a news show I was on the air a few seconds every hour to promote the service, so it was a great experience. And I did that for 12 years.
That's a long time.
Until we got layoff.
Layoff because of COVID.
It happens. No, that was way before COVID.
Oh, okay.
We just got a new president, and the new president decided that he didn't want to do the Spanish interpretation anymore, so we got laid off.
Okay.
It went like that, but it was a great experience.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds good. And challenges of moving from to an English-speaking country, were there many?
Well, again, it's really intimidating, but at the end of the day, it's kind of the same culture. It's a really similar culture.
Why is that? How? In what ways?
I don't know. I think that we grow up with the same stuff. You know, we grow up watching the same TV shows. The style of living here in Spain, in the modern times, I mean, after the 80s or the 90s, is kind of American. So when I moved there, I didn't find a big difference. Of course, you kind of have a cultural shock once you arrive there. But I'm going to tell you something about California. People are extremely nice with foreigners.
Excellent.
They are super nice. I mean, I lived in London in the past, for example. I lived there for 1 year, and being a Spaniard in London is not easy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But in California, I was kind of like an exotic guy, you know. I was like different. I was European, and everybody was super nice. But of course, it's a challenge because everything is kind of different. But at the end of the day, it's like human beings, like you and me, and with a really similar culture, I found.
Okay, good. I think I've had some challenges moving from Australia to Spain.
I bet.
Yeah, and that's cultural as well, mainly because I find it very frustrating with services and things like that. And imagine, we're in Barcelona, we're in the north part of the country. If we lived in the south, it would be like I would be every day. I'd be pulling my hair out every day.
But when you say services, you mean like customer service, for example?
Yeah, it depends. For example, it really depends on who the professional. For example, yesterday someone came to fix my satellite dish, and they were very professional. But the week before, someone came to fix my satellite dish, and I had an argument with them, and they left.
Yeah, that's cultural as well.
Yeah. So some things really I get frustrated with, but I'm surviving. It's okay. And Loic, any questions? Have you got any questions for Xavi that maybe you would like to reflect on?
Yeah, you know, it's what I'm really interested in is when you come back to Spain from a place like California, which is a nice, friendly atmosphere. I mean, it's an English-speaking place, American, I guess. But how does it feel coming back to Spain? I mean, how does it differ? Are they friendlier? Are they warmer, colder? I mean,
yeah,
certainly weather-wise it's colder.
How does it feel coming back to your own country? Just before you answer that, I had one of my students, her family came back from living in California as well. Like they came back 2 years ago. And she said, I'm finding it more difficult to get used to moving back to my own country than I found it moving out to America.
I totally understand, because you have a cultural shock once again. But in this case, it's a weird cultural shock because you're going back to your own country. And sometimes it feels like it's not your country anymore because it's just so different. And I've been away for so long. Then you come back and you feel that everything is different, everything goes slower here, time goes really slow, I feel. Over there, the time goes super fast. But it's a weird sensation, it's a weird feeling, if I have to be honest. And you start connecting with people, with friends, with other connections that I had. And, you know, it's been 16 years, so everybody looks older, everybody... has a different style of life.
Fatter.
Yeah, bigger. Everybody married, with children.
Yeah.
And but it's a strange sensation. And let's say that I'm still landing. I'm still trying to adapt myself to the new situation. But it's weird. It's strange. It's difficult to describe because it's like a cultural shock once again. but you're having a cultural shock with your own culture. So yeah, it feels kind of weird. So I just need to assimilate, I guess, and go slow.
Yeah, you'll adapt with time. Time is the great equalizer, healer, everything like that.
Even the California is kind of bilingual.
Yeah.
Lots of people speak Spanish there. You need to understand that there is a huge Mexican community there. So a lot of people speak Spanish. Even the gringos or people that they are American, they like the language. They want to learn it. They are interested with. So it's kind of a bilingual state.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I guess it's because of its proximity, no, to the.
Yeah, because of the immigration.
Yeah.
There's lots of immigration coming from the south, especially from Mexico.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, very good. Let's look then now at some of the popular episodes. I've got a little list here. We can just reflect back on those. So cheers for that insight, Xavi. That was very interesting. Okay, then. So let's have a quick look. I mean, obviously, the most popular episode of all time is my first episode. And I don't know if... that's probably because it's the longest episode that has been available to listen to. So that was actually the do's and don'ts of email writing in business, which was quite a really useful episode. So just talking about like some of the best practice for email writing. So like, you know, using proper subject lines, being polite, not speaking or not writing too directly, looking at, you know, correct layout, using, you know, clear like paragraphing and things like that to ensure that your emails are going to be read, using the correct formality when necessary and things like that, not being too formal or sorry, not being too informal, which is quite typical. Another one, the second most popular one, and again, that was episode number 2, so that was probably because it's so old, how to use collocations and idioms in your business English. And that's a great foundation episode because we talk a lot about collocations and idioms on this podcast. That's what we're about. We're about helping you broaden your vocabulary, your range of vocabulary, and helping you maybe to understand these more advanced expressions that maybe without much context, it's difficult to appreciate. And then we skip over right up to the original episodes were in 2017, and then we jump to the third most popular episode, which was in 2019, so 2 years later, where formal vocabulary to use in a meeting, which was really popular because I guess a lot of people are unaware of the, you know, the formalities, and maybe they want to feel that when they are required to speak formally, that they have this vocabulary available to them. A lot of people are quite informal, and I think that sometimes this can be a little bit detrimental to the perception of professionalism because of the way, you know, that we run meetings informally. And some people really demand or require formality or formal language because, you know, they're important customers or important people or important you know, managers or directors within the company, and you need to speak to these people with the required formality. Otherwise, you could be perceived as being maybe a little bit unprofessional or too relaxed when you should be, you know, showing the correct level of formality. The fourth one is 15 expressions everyone should know.
Oh, wow, that's a good one.
Yeah, 15 expressions everyone should know. I wish I could remember all of the expressions that everyone should know, but it's a lot of fun because they're really common ones that we use. And another one that's super popular, 10 expressions to start using in 2020. So these are expressions that I found through listening to lots of podcasts myself or through reading books, like expressions that come up often. And that's been really popular too. And the next one is 10 phrasal verbs for your next business meeting. So a lot of focus here on meetings. A lot of people like, we do spend a lot of time in meetings Actually, about up to 40 or 50% of our day, depending on what job you're in, is spent in meetings. A lot of my students, my business students, talk about literally jumping from meeting to meeting. So yeah, having the correct meeting language is good. And also making suggestions and proposals in business meetings is very popular. So yeah, lots of stuff on meetings. The next one is asking questions and showing interest in a meeting. So people really want to be able to clarify things, ask questions of others, and also showing interest in terms of like acknowledging what people tell you. Yes, that's a great idea. Thank you for that recommendation, or thank you for that suggestion. And also 11 expressions for summarizing, clarifying, and closing a meeting. I think that's an incredibly important skill set, because if we want to close meetings effectively, we need to clarify what was said, we need to summarize, especially if you are the person who's hosting or running that meeting. You really need to make sure that people end the meeting knowing what happened, knowing what they have to do, and having all the ideas clear. Otherwise, they'll go away thinking, what do I have to do for next week? What's my objective? And finally, stating facts and giving reasons in a meeting. So lots of meeting stuff. Yeah. Any reflections, Loic, on the top episodes in the past 3 years?
So it certainly sounds like meetings was a key theme, and well, obviously, but emails. So email has, in general marketing terms in business, and I guess in English as well, there is almost a perception from time to time, and this crops its head up, from time to time, that it's diminishing in importance. And yet, email is still the primary method of communication. I know we have WhatsApp, we have Zoom, we have Skype, but ultimately, people will send you an email, and you will ask them to send you an email. So the relevance for subject lines and formality sounds like it's still today relevant. I mean, what do you think?
Well, I think it's going to be interesting to see if we're going to be talking about the future, and what we see is the changes taking place. But I think we're going to see email still playing an important role. However, I think we're going to see a bit of a transition to like short video messages, because you can pack a lot more information into a quick 2-minute video that maybe the same information would take you at least 5 minutes to type into an email. And then the person often who has to read the email, it's like, oof, like 5-paragraph long email. It's like, really? Did you have to send me 5-paragraph long email, which you could have said in 2 minutes? So it'll be interesting to see how people's behavior change in the future. I'm not sure, Xavi, if you have any thoughts on that, but I think maybe with more video conferencing, people will see the benefits of that.
Absolutely. I mean, email will never disappear. We will always use the email. The thing with the video is that we're adding a new form of communication, and you're using your non-verbal communication, your gestures, your facial expressions, your posture, for example, says a lot from you. And a good example is Loic, for example. His posture is like, it's like perfect. It's like really professional. And that says a lot. Well, imagine you're doing sales, for example. Imagine you're selling something. You need to show yourself confident. Yeah. You need to show yourself that you believe in the product, that you're selling a good product. You cannot do that with the email and with the video conference. So you add that form of communication. And if we're talking about teaching or online teaching, same thing. I think that through the video, of course, you are losing a lot because you're not in a face-to-face with the student, but you can try to stimulate that non-verbal communication, your posture, your gesture, expressions of happiness, of agreeing with somebody. etc.
Yeah, and non-verbal is like 60% of communication there.
Exactly. So I think that the future is going that way, and the email it's gonna be more limited to the, let's call it, formal stuff.
Yeah, maybe that'll be interesting to see how apps like Slack or things like that, these collaboration tools, how they start to incorporate little. For example, Vimeo, however you want to say it, Vimeo now has little screen recording tool where you can record the screen and your camera, which is nothing new. It's not rocket science. But like if you can have a shared folder with someone, or you can send them a quick, like as opposed to sending a quick, even just a short message service like WhatsApp or whatever, like a little 2-minute video. Hey, I saw your proposal. I thought it was great. I would change these 3 things and boom, send. Like that is going to be much more interactive and dynamic. But yeah, you're right. Email is not going to die. Email is hugely important. People check their email all the time. It's one of the most powerful tools for direct marketing with people. And you need to attach physical documents. Like people need to maybe sign physical documents. You can't really at the moment attach links inside a video. Right. So that's click the link in the video to sign. Well, we'll see how the technology evolves. But that's how I would see some changes in the way we communicate. For example, just to give you one more example, we are doing our second term reports for all of our students here at the school, which we are in today. We're at the school today. And literally, it takes a lot of time to prepare individual report cards with all the grades and then write all of the comments. So I've said, no, we're sending all of the parents their evaluations via video. We're going to make little videos. So
that's a great idea.
Yeah, we're putting their evaluation on the screen as a Word document or a PDF or whatever. They'll have the students' grades there, and then we're going to just explain them to the parents and say, well, your child is improving this way, or they're not, and if it's with adults, we'll just directly talk to them, and that way it's going to be much more interactive, and I think that we'll be able to pack more information into a shorter time. Okay, good. Loic, any other points regarding past episodes?
Yeah, so it's interesting what you say about the video, and I was thinking that email is almost like a cataloging format, and with video messages, I think there's a huge future, a huge theme coming up. And you didn't mention video, if I'm not mistaken, in those episodes, but I think it will become huge. Showing people basically how to behave on video for maximum effectiveness.
True. That's another scope. There's a new course we can develop, Loic. how to present yourself on camera so that you are effective. But I've just thought of a challenge though. That's just made me think of a challenge. Like email is a good record which you can scan. Like you can type and search for keywords. Like where was that email from last year, which was really important now because we have some problem with a customer and we need to review that email that was sent 6 months ago. Maybe there'll be some challenges then, like how are we going to sort, organize, and capture information from those videos without actually going back and watching every single video. So the technology will need to be developed. They'll need to think of some ways where they can actually transcribe it digitally as it's sent through the system. And then if you need to search for information that was shared with a member or a customer, then you can actually do it by typing in actual words. That'll be, And how are you going to categorize it all? Because maybe you've just got videos flying around everywhere. But to be fair, email is not well categorized. I think most people's inbox has got 10,000 emails in it. 10,000 emails. And they're just only by date and subject line. So that's why a subject line is very important, because you can use that to search. All right, good. Anything else about meetings or that you would like to reflect on, guys?
I think meetings online is going to be a theme, the behavior pattern that takes place when you're doing physical presentations, physical meetings, and the translation of that to online. And the reason I say so is because we are coming to the end of a pandemic, hopefully. And so in theory, things will go back to a normal, but it's likely to be a different kind of normal. And a lot of that normality will now become online. So online will become very normal. And so how should your behavior change when you're online as opposed to offline in a boardroom environment, for example?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'd be interested to see what changes occur, because, in the past you felt the need to drive to the customer's office and meet them and, battle through traffic, or literally you felt the need, like it wasn't a question. I've got to fly out to Germany tomorrow because I have an important meeting with a potential customer. Now it's sort of like, do I really need to drive through traffic? Do I really need to take that flight out to Germany tomorrow? Is it really necessary? So it's going to be interesting to see if people sort of go back a little bit to their old ways, or if they're just like, no, now we don't need to do that anymore. I don't know. Or I do know from the experience of my students that a lot of them are looking forward to coming back to physical classes, which is interesting because they're younger, and you'd think that the younger generation would be like, no, online's perfect. But it'll be interesting to see what happens when they have the options. Because I think what I've noticed is if I give them the option to come in person, they say they want to, but then on the day of the class, I'm like, you're online, what are you doing? Oh yeah, I just decided to stay at home. So it's like, it'll be interesting to see how that changes. But I think, meetings online, there's going to be a lot to learn still. Just the basics about proper lighting, proper camera angles,
the background.
Yeah, the
really important.
background. Yeah, behavior in terms of like not just having your phone looking away, looking at the camera so that people really sense that you're talking to them. There's lots of things, and we have spoken about that in the past. But okay, let's transition then to the last part of this episode. What about the future? I mean, let's get our little crystal balls out and think about the future of. Let's just focus on learning languages, because I think that this being a language learning podcast, I think we should talk about how we think the business or the business of language learning might evolve in the coming years. Do you want to lead with that one, Loic?
So here's the thing. My thoughts on that subject is, as you know, I help students in a specific subject matter get to grips with the English version of that subject. So, Andrew, most recently I did the project management one. And what it comes down to is that, and we throw these words around, and I'm sure you know them very well: asynchronous learning, hybrid learning or teaching, blended learning, and learner autonomy. And so what it comes down to over there is that you're blending and mixing online, self-directed quizzes and exercises with a regular interaction live with an actual teacher. Now, I actually, for this kind of idea, I literally went and looked up, what does it mean, hybrid teaching, And it says here, I'm just reading off the net, you literally Google it. Hybrid teaching methods combine face-to-face and online teaching. Okay, so that's hybrid. Then you look at blended learning. So an example of blended learning is a student might attend classes in a real-world classroom setting and then supplement that lesson by completing online multimedia coursework. Blended learning could be things like integrating online, taught in the classroom, and online separately, but basically the student taking charge of their own learning, so the focus moves away from the teacher. Learner autonomy, which is a popular concept in foreign language education, so English would fit in that. And they say in the past decades, especially in relation to lifelong learning skills. And you think to yourself, okay, so what does it all mean? And what does synchronous mean? Synchronous is one-to-one, live, the way we are doing it right now. But asynchronous means that they can watch you teaching them, or they can learn from you rather, at their own convenience, at their own time, so that it's got minimal disruption to their private environment or to their corporate environment. Now, what's interesting is that none of these concepts are actually new, but the combination of these concepts into coursework seems to be fairly new. Now, I don't like to make huge forecasts about the future, because the one thing we know is that it'll be wrong. We know that. So, but what I would like to say is that there is definitely a future for that. In other words, hybrid, blended, learner autonomy, asynchronous learning, in combination with subject-specific matter. So we're not talking general English, we're not talking business in general. We're talking about specific subject matter. And I think that's where the future lies. And I think we're one step ahead because we already have this online ability. You certainly have with the Art of Business English, and I have in my field. And what we found is that schools, traditional schools, without this exposure to online teaching, had a massive learning curve. And a lot of them went out of business because they could not transition to online. And so while I don't think that online will replace the offline world completely, bearing in mind that the market dictates what is needed. And if the market says a lot of our staff, a lot of our people are going to interact online, surely they need to know how to behave and speak online. That's my take on it.
Excellent. I like it. Yeah, people are going to have to learn about acting and behaving online, which is maybe something that a lot of companies or industries haven't really considered. We've all just been thrown into it, and there hasn't really been proper training because, I mean, you just put a camera up, don't you? You just jump on a webcam, it'll be fine.
Right, of course.
Yeah. But with regards to what you said about, these blended hybrid asynchronous, how do I pronounce it?
Hybrid.
Hybrid, asynchronous.
Asynchronous, sorry.
Learner autonomy.
Yeah, asynchronous models. Yeah, I think that, it's like anything, nothing is ever new. It's just repackaged. So at the end of the day, you get all these fancy language learning apps and like this is the Ocho Belt system. And it's like at the end of the day, like you just have to like work. You just have to work at adopting a language, and practice.
Ultimately,
and be as immersed as possible. But yes, the technology is going to make it much more like available. Like you will. That's one of the benefits that I see. If you want to learn American English, you don't, and you live in a village with population 1,000 people. As long as you've got an internet connection, you have the ability to connect with real native American English speakers. So, and that's the beauty now. With regards to corporate training, yes, companies now have much more leverage. They can even set up their own like LMSs, so like learning management systems in-house, and you can start to deliver internal training programs which are all online, and then maybe having just like one in-person or one live session in the office. But a lot of the actual extra work, you can leverage it outside of the work time, or you can have people doing it flexibly around their meetings and things like that. So that's the benefit. You've got lots of flexibility. And I think that what we're going to see is not just a transformation of like language learning. I think we're going to see a massive transformation in even like the traditional model of like universities and things like that. Like these universities charge hundreds of thousands of euros because you want to go to that prestigious place and you've got to be there physically. I think a lot of places now are going to, like, I went to Cambridge University, but I did it online, and I was, in South Africa, or I was in the Philippines, and maybe that will help democratize a little bit the cost of these types of educations. And another thing, a lot of people, especially people who are looking now maybe for a better lifestyle, they don't want to live in New York working crazy hours, like doing and paying crazy rent in a small flat in the middle of a pandemic. Like, I want to have a better lifestyle now, but I want my children to have a great education. So if I live maybe in the Caribbean islands and it's a beautiful lifestyle, but the local school here is not great. No offense to the Caribbean islands, maybe they have some great schools, but depending on where you're living, maybe the offer of public or even private education is not great. So I predict that we will see, and maybe this is a new business model for someone who's got lots of money and time and wants to build it, like really amazing online private schools where children, and like what you said, like you're putting the onus back onto the child to make them more dependent or more of an independent learner, less directed by the teacher. And people are connecting from all around the world to these private schools. You've got the best teachers because no longer need to have someone who lives in that city. You've got like the teacher who comes in from Australia at 6 p.m. because that suits him or her in terms of their schedule. And the child's like, okay, I've got class with Andrew at 6 because, you know, he's the Australian teacher who's going to teach me this topic and he's an expert in this field. And then you've got another teacher coming in from India at 3 who's an expert in their field. And you've got these like different people, like it's like globalized teaching environment. I don't know what you think, Xavi. What do you reckon?
I think that you just say the word now, that everything is globalized, and that's the advantage of living in the postmodernity, that you can be in, I don't know, in San Fruitos de Bages, a small town, 3,000 people population, for example, and be teaching Korean to somebody in Canada. Absolutely, there's going to be a before and after, but I think that it's already happening. Maybe it's happening in a really slowly way, but I think that there is a big change, and there's going to be a big change, of course, in teaching. I'm still a romantic. I'm kind of romantic. I still feel that especially the youngsters, they need that social interaction, not just with the teacher, but with other students. So I don't think that the offline teaching is going to disappear. But of course, the model has to change, not just because of the pandemic, but also because of the times that we're living. We're in the postmodernity, we're in the era of globalization. And Loic said something really interesting. He said that the market is going to tell us a little bit what's going to be this new model. And I don't know if the technology is going to evolve in relation with the market, or the market is going to evolve in relation of the technology development. But I think that it's already happening. That there is this process to change the different teaching models. But again, I still feel that you need that social interaction.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's impossible to do it through video, I think, video conferences. You need that interaction with other students, etc. But that there's going to be a before and after, we all know that.
Yeah, that's interesting, no? Like you've got AC, BC, no? Antes de Cristo, and then you've got before Corona and after Corona. And I think I heard that someone say that.
I think it's going to be like this. And it's already happening. I mean.
Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting. Well, so Loic, any reflections? Any further reflections? What do you think is going to happen, though, to traditional? Do you think that it's either transform and digitize your business or die?
I can see there's going to be a delamination in general. So you'll still have the elitists who want to have that physical contact at a physical school. And like you said, I mean, some kind of interaction between students is important. Then you're going to get the live environment, which is also quite expensive because you're paying for a teacher's time. And as we know in the teaching field, an hour of tuition, or an hour of connection with a student and a teacher costs more than just an hour, because the teacher has to prepare and get ready and afterwards decompress. And then you're going to have the online learning. So the focus is away from teaching and towards learning, where the students take responsibility for that learning. And this is the likes of Coursera, Udemy, and those guys who really can democratize the learning aspect. So it's not prestigious, it's not coveted, but the knowledge is there. You're learning from an expert. And who is an expert? An expert is somebody who knows more about a subject than you do. And for that, it's going to be invaluable.
Yeah, I love it. No, I think you're right. But this is one of the challenges, I think. We've always, I mean, one of my colleagues another Andrew, he's always said this, you as a student need to be responsible for your learning. You can't just be like, okay, teach me. You need to be proactive. And I think the more a student is responsible for their own learning, the more, or the better the experience, the more they're going to get out of it. But this is still a challenge with younger children. I mean, how do you teach younger children to be interested in things? If it's not the new PlayStation 5, I don't really care. Like, I just want to have fun and play football or whatever. So yeah, there are definitely challenges, and I think these models need to be adapted, yes, to the market, but also to, like anything with marketing or when you're selling a product, who's your target audience, who is going to be using it, and it has to be adapted to them, because obviously it's not going to be functional or effective for everyone. But there's lots of opportunities and lots of things to do. So any final thoughts, Xavi, before we wrap things up?
I think that we can arrive to some big conclusions here, that we all need to evolve, and we need to be tech savvy a little bit and follow what the market is telling us. But I think that we're going with the right direction with the online teaching. I think that the key is to find a way to make it attractive for the student. You just mentioned that the young people these days, they are overstimulated with with PlayStations, with Netflix, etc. So we need to find that area that you can find the online teaching attractive for them. Not like a game, but something that, besides getting benefits of learning a new language, for example, it's something that can be attractive, that can be fun. Let's call it like that. Yeah. Besides that student responsibility that your colleague was telling, that I absolutely agree with that. I think that the next step will be like try to make it like more attractive for the student.
See, those are the challenges. Gamifying is an option, but at the same time, there's no substitute for hard work, which is, I mean, it's good and it's fun to have fun, but if you're not working towards, acquisition of knowledge or acquisition of a language, you can have as much fun as you like, but
that's why it's a challenge.
Yeah,
that's why it's a challenge.
So if one of our listeners has got the key, the secret, let us know, because then we can save the world and get rich doing it.
The formula.
Yeah. Any last thoughts for you as well, Loic?
No, I think, maybe just a quick one. I had an interaction with a local South African facilitator. He works with the government and teaches people at a very low level, entry level. Let's not say low, but entry, call it what it is. And we were discussing this online hybrid stroke blended learning, not in the language sphere, but just in general. As you were saying earlier, you can apply it to other aspects of education. And so what he said to me, which was really, really, it stuck with me. The head, the hands, and the heart. And what he meant is something like this. He looked at the business model and he said, well, I can see where the head fits in. So the head is things like hard skills, tough knowledge, actual clear answers. So here's the knowledge, here's a multiple choice questionnaire, and then you select the right answers or you work out the right answers. That's the head. The hands is where you've got hands-on. So for example, a forklift driver. How do you assess a forklift driver? Well, it turns out that even in the online space, there is an opportunity. You simply have a video recording of the forklift driver moving something from the left to the right, which is what you would observe in any case, because you're an observer. And so you could do that online. And then the last one is the heart. And the heart comes down to reflection. So you've got the tough skills in the head. Then you've got working physically with something to demonstrate your skill. And then you've got reflection. And reflection basically is literally like you just asked, like, what do you think about what we've just discussed? And so those three can actually all be combined into the online environment. And I think that's why the online environment really is a very strong trend. And it's not new. I mean, I've been reading papers that came out in the early 2000s about blending technology with teaching and online. But I think it's really maturing quite nicely. That's my point.
Excellent. I love that reflection. And I love that head, heart, and hands. Oh, yeah, the hands. That's an interesting analogy. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for that. And yeah, I think the technology is coming along nicely. And the funny thing about this technology now is it's like, it doesn't seem that like revolutionary. It's like, yeah, I've been doing Skype calls forever. I can share my screen. Wow.
And we didn't talk about things like like made me think now about virtual reality, for example.
Yeah,
now he was giving us the example of the forklift driver, a forklift operator. These days, you just put a virtual reality set, and you're learning. How can we adapt that to the online teaching, for example?
Yes,
in some
we can.
situations, we didn't talk about these things, but we need to see. That's why we need to see how the market evolves and how the technology evolves and how we can make it attractive for the students, to the students. But yeah, we have like huge possibilities here.
Yeah, I discussed this with my other colleague and the other Andrew, and this is going to be a game changer. Once you can put people into virtual environments, like for example, if you're really shy, and you get terrified in business meetings, I'm shy, I'm worried about my English, like you can literally have business meeting scenario role plays where you're in a VR environment and you're just like, oh yeah, okay. And if you mess it up, it doesn't matter. You can overcome your shyness through continual practice of virtual reality meetings.
And it has good results. I've seen that. I used to work with psychiatrists, with psychologists, with mental health practitioners in the United States, and lots of them, they use virtual reality to do therapy, especially cognitive therapy, everything that is fears,
phobias.
Any kind of phobia, it really works.
Okay, like the spider crawling up your arm. Oh, I'm gonna get used to it. It's not real. It's not.
Fear of flying, fear of heights. It totally works. Maybe it could work also in our context in online teaching. You can use virtual reality. We were talking about make it fun for the students also. We're talking about increasing the interactions. It's a kind of interaction when you are in those kind of sets, and technology is going crazy. It's not so expensive these days to get a virtual reality set. It's not so crazy. Not like 10 years ago that was like so innovative. Now you can get it at at Walmart.
At Walmart, get a headset from Walmart. Okay, excellent. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate you coming on for the episode for the 3-year anniversary. Lots of interesting ideas bouncing around. The future of everything is quite bright and epic. We didn't really talk about any of the challenges, we did some of the challenges. We didn't really talk about some of the downside, but I think the fact that nowadays we have got insane amounts of knowledge and the ability to learn anything new from professionals in this online world, it is only a positive thing for everyone. And I think that nowadays, you've really got no excuse. If you are interested in anything, you can find that topic and you can learn about it and you can get better at it. So keep learning. The life journey of continuous learning will make you a better and more interesting and help your brain as well. So you need to work your brain like you need to work your body. So yeah, the future is bright, and I hope you've all enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to seeing you for another episode next week of The Art of Business English, and we'll be here with many more free lessons coming up in the future. So take care. Thanks for coming, Xavi.
My pleasure.
Thanks for coming as well, Loic.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Cheers, guys. And thanks to you guys for listening. Take care. Bye for now.